Toyota just did something that nobody saw coming. While the rest of the automotive industry is building engines that expire the day your warranty ends, Japanese engineers have quietly gone to war. Their 2026 SUV lineup includes a model with an internal engineering standard of 20 years, not a 5-year lease, 20 years of punishment. But that is not even the most shocking part. What engineers just revealed about their new torture testing protocols will make every American SUV manufacturer panic. We are talking about engines run at redline for 3 days straight that refuse to break. In the next few minutes, we're counting down the 7 Japanese SUVs that are rewriting the rules of reliability for 2026. You'll learn why SUV number 4 uses a material in its engine block that was abandoned by others for being too expensive. And the final vehicle, mechanics called the million-mile standard because its failure point was never found. And be warned, if you bought an SUV in the last 2 years, there's a high chance it will never reach 200,000 miles. But the cars on this list, they're just getting started. Number 7 is the vehicle that killed the myth that hybrids are fragile, the 2026 Honda CR-V Hybrid. For years, skeptics said complexity kills, but Honda's 2026 system is different. This isn't a normal hybrid. It's essentially a solid steel gearbox with a battery attached. That is why mechanics trust it. Honda calls it an ECVT, but that is a lie. It's actually a single-speed reduction gear with 2 massive electric motors. There are no shift solenoids to clog, there are no clutch packs to burn out. It's 2 steel gears locked together. It is virtually impossible to break mechanically. And the battery? They introduced dual thermal management. They tested this in Death Valley at 130 degrees Fahrenheit, running the AC at max for 72 hours. Result? 0 thermal degradation. This means the battery you buy in 2026 will likely have 90% of its capacity in 2036. If you want an appliance that is as reliable as a hammer, this is it. Number 6 represents a company that refuses to cut costs where you can't see them, the 2026 Mazda CX-50. In the 2000s, Mazdas were fun, but they rusted if you looked at them wrong. They didn't just fix it, they became obsessed. The 2026 CX-50 features a zinc-rich primer and galvanized steel panels that rival luxury cars. One Rust Belt mechanic told me, "These are the first Mazdas I don't see on a lift after 5 winters." But the real engineering flex is the engine. While competitors are squeezing horsepower out of tiny, stressed-out engines, Mazda actually lowered the horsepower in the 2026 model to 187. Why? To reduce cylinder pressure. They call it gentle combustion. By lowering the stress and lengthening the stroke, you get torque earlier without redlining the engine. Lower RPMs equal less wear. It's a philosophy that prioritizes longevity over marketing numbers. Number 5 is on this list because they finally fixed the one thing that terrified owners, the 2026 Subaru Outback Wilderness. For decades, if you bought a Subaru, you whispered 2 words in fear: Head Gasket. It was the brand's Achilles heel, but for 2026, the engine has been redesigned with multi-layer steel gaskets and a deck surface machined to a mirror finish. Subaru ran these through 2,000 thermal cycles, freezing to overheating, with a 0% failure rate. And they fixed the CVT. The Wilderness model gets a transmission with a physical launch gear. In a normal CVT, the belt slips when you accelerate hard. That slip creates heat. Subaru added a real physical first gear to handle that load. Once you're moving, the CVT takes over. It eliminates the #1 cause of transmission failure. Before we get to the top 4, you need to understand something. The vehicles we just looked at are great daily drivers, but the next 4? They're different. In the modern automotive world, engineers are told to design parts to last just long enough to survive the lease. The next 4 vehicles rejected that order. They chose materials that are heavier and more expensive simply because they refuse to fail. In fact, one of the next vehicles was internally rejected 3 times because executives said it would last too long. These are the vehicles you buy when you want to opt out of the system. Number 4 is the 2026 Lexus GX550. It makes this list because of one material: cast iron. In 2026, almost everyone uses aluminum engine blocks to save weight, but aluminum warps when it overheats. The GX550 uses a twin-turbo V6 with a cast iron block. It is heavy, it is outdated, and it is indestructible. This is the kind of engine block you'd expect in a hospital generator, not a luxury SUV. And the frame? It uses 14 bolts to connect the body to the chassis. Most trucks use 8. Why 14? Because Lexus assumes you will overload it. They assume you will tow 8,000 pounds over washboard roads for a decade. It is overkill in the best possible way. Number 3 is the truck that holds its value better than gold, the 2026 Toyota 4Runner. Yes, they finally dropped the V6 for a turbo 4-cylinder, but you need to know about the Tahara Standard. The 4Runner is built in the Tahara plant in Japan. Workers there are not allowed on the assembly line until they prove they can hand polish metal to a mirror finish within microns of tolerance. The new engine produces massive torque at just 1,700 RPM. Why does that matter? Because low RPM means low stress. The old V6 had to scream to get moving. The new engine creates power while barely spinning. Less friction, less heat, longer life. Toyota tested this powertrain by simulating 300,000 miles of towing. They didn't just want it to survive, they wanted it to remain within factory specs. Number 2 is the 2026 Honda Pilot TrailSport. It looks like a school-run taxi, but underneath this is closer to a military logistics vehicle than a family SUV. It uses the legendary J-Series V6. This engine has been in production for nearly 30 years. Every leak, every bug, every issue was engineered out of existence 2 decades ago. And the torture test? Honda took pre-production pilots to Hell's Revenge in Moab. They ran them on rock-crawling trails for 30 consecutive days. At the end of the month, they stripped the suspension. They expected shattered bushings. They found wear equivalent to just 50,000 miles highway miles. If it can handle Moab for a month, it can handle your potholes for 20 years. But number 1 is the vehicle that sets the standard for the world, the 2026 Toyota Land Cruiser. Toyota has an internal engineering requirement for this vehicle called service life. Most cars are designed for 15 years. The Land Cruiser is engineered for a 25-year, 500,000-mile service life in third-world countries with bad fuel. The rear differential is basically farm equipment. It uses a mechanical design that hasn't changed since the 1980s because it never fails. The electronics have backups. If the computer dies, there are mechanical overrides to get you home. They sent 50 test units to the Australian Outback for 100,000 miles of abuse. 47 came back under their own power. The 3 that didn't, they were crashed. 0 mechanical failures. The industry wants you to lease. They want you to upgrade. They want you to treat cars like iPhones. These 7 Japanese SUVs are the middle finger to that business model. Which one of these do you think will still be running in 2046? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to know the 5 American SUVs you need to avoid at all costs, the ones mechanics refuse to work on, click this video right here.